Great, now you have your script file linked to your HTML file right here. You have opened the live preview with your browser. You can right click, inspect, and go to console to use the developer tools. And we are going to add messages here through our script file, adding console.log, and here your message. Okay, you can see it's being added here. When you type text, which is a string, you add double quotes, as you can see, okay? Because if I do it like this, we will have an error. Errors will be displayed always in the console, so it's a great place to check if your code is not working, okay? So it's saying an error, which is basically that if you're, because JavaScript is thinking that you're trying to use a variable here, but you're trying to add text, so you need to add double quotes, okay? Because this is the first data type that we are going to learn about, strings. Another one is numbers. Of course, I can add the number 100, and you can see it even has a different color, at least here in Brave, and probably also in Chrome and most browsers. So this is a new and different data type from strings. If I add 100 to 100, we have 200, great. But if I add double quotes to these numbers, they are treated as strings, not as numbers. So instead of having 200, I have 100 and then 100. Because if you want to add two strings to text, for example, a name and a surname, you put the name first and then the surname, right? Like in my case, Julio Rivera, name and surname. So I have the first string and then the second string. Great. If you add double quotes to a number, it works the same way because we are treating these characters as strings. If you delete the double quotes, they are treated as numbers, and you can, in this case, add them, multiply them, divide them, or any operation you want. Okay, so for example, 100 per 100 divided by 2 plus 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you have 1123. Okay, so these are different data types. Okay, so we have console.log. This is a string. Okay, this is a string, and I'm going to add another one called console.log. This is a number, and then I'm going to add another console.log, the number. In this case, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is a string, and this is a number, and we have it here. Great. Now you know about the two main data types that we're going to use: a string and number. But there are plenty of data types. We can use arrays. We can use objects. These are more advanced. We're not going to be using them at the moment. And you can also add use HTML documents. So you can manipulate headings, paragraphs, buttons, anchors, or anything in your website with JavaScript. We will learn that in the future. But how can we use this information? We're going to use the programming. We are always going to be programming inside a console log? Of course not. We are going to use what is called variables. Variables is a place where we can store information to use it afterwards, or we can even manipulate it. We have two types. We have a type of variable that can't change and one that can be changed. Okay? So to declare a variable, which means to create it and assign it a value, we're going to use the word const or let. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to begin with const, which is a constant variable. This means this can't change. Okay? And I'm going to name it username. And so we are declaring a variable which is constant, as you can see here. The name of the variable is username, and the value is going to be Julio123, okay, and semicolon here. Great. Now we have this variable, but we can't see it. Well, we can console log it to see it, and we have username. Great. And now we have here Julio123 as a string, as you can see. Great, we are declaring a variable called username and assigning the value Julio123. What if we want to change it? Well, now we don't have to use const again. This is only when we declare the value. declaring is creating the value for the first time and then assigning the value. So now we can say username. I'm going to change the username to Mark, okay? And as you can see, I'm having an error because, as I told you, const is constant, it cannot change. So if I console.log username now, it's not working. But if instead of using const, I used let, now it's working and we don't have any error because let allows you to change the value. So we have username with the value Julio123 here. So when we consolidate it, we have Julio123, and then we have username Mark. We're changing the value to Mark, and it's working fine. Because sometimes you want to be able to change the value, and sometimes you don't want to allow the value to change for security reasons, or maybe because you don't want that functionality, okay? So this is important because when you start creating your first programs, this will make a lot of difference, okay? Just understand that const is constant and is not supposed to change, and let is a variable that can change and you can modify it as you want, okay? Now you can assign, let's create a number, I'm going to create a big number, okay, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, this number, for example. As I told you, we can use variables to modify their value. For example, we can say let big number and let a small number, okay, equal to 3, 4, for example, okay. We're not adding double quotes because these are numbers. We can, for example, say we're going to create a new variable called multiply, and it's going to be a big number multiplied by small number, okay. Here, before we learn how to multiply numbers, okay, like this. I think this asterisk right here, we can divide, we can add, we can subtract, okay. In this case, multiply, for example, okay. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 6. So we can create new variables by assigning a multiplication, division, etc. So in this case, if I console.log multiply, you can see it's the multiplication. I can also divide it, okay, so we have the division. I can assign the same value as a small number. I can assign the same value as a small number per 2, per 10, or whatever I want. I can even say that a small number is 4, and then I'm going to say a small number is small number, which is 4, multiplied by 2. And now let me change this for a small number, okay? Small number is 8, okay? So I can, a small number, I assign it a value, and now I'm assigning the same value, but I'm multiplying it by 2, okay? So these are some of the basic operations you can do with numbers, with strings. You can also combine them, and also the basic data types you have, strings and numbers, and the basic variables, which we have const and let for constant variables and variables that can change, okay? Now we are ready to move on.